All right, so now this problem, it's only going to be a one problem video. We're asked to write this radical in simplest form. So first, they're asking us to multiply them together, and then they're asking us to simplify them. So we need to do both. So the first thing we need to do in order to multiply is we need to look for indexes. Well, since both of these have nothing written there, it's understood to be a square root, so we know that both of these are 2. So since they are in fact the same index, we can multiply what's on the inside. All right, and then we'll multiply our likes with our likes. So it's our constant with our constant. So 72 times 10 is equal to 720. X cubed times x. So since we're multiplying with the same base, we would add our power. So that would then be 3 plus 1, which is 4. And then we have y squared times y cubed. So we would add them, and we would get y to the 5th. All right, you could have simplified first and then multiplied. Doesn't matter. It's whatever you prefer. All right, so now we need to simplify this as much as possible. All right, and now to simplify the square root of 720, we're going to then look at the chart that we made before. Now I made it a little bit larger. We're going to look at the chart that we had that we used for simplifying radicals. All right, so remember, since it's the square root, I'm only worried about numbers that are perfect squares. I'm not worried about any other numbers. So I'm only worried about all these x squares. Right? Any number that's not an x square that doesn't go into it, I don't care about. All right, because it does me no good. So even if one of these numbers that we don't have listed goes into it, if it's not a perfect square, there's nothing you can do with it. All right, so we're only looking for these. So now we're going to ask ourselves, do these divide evenly into 720? All right, and then we would just go down the list. Now, if you don't know what numbers divide evenly into 720, you can just use a calculator. But 4 divides evenly into 720, so does 9, so does 16, 36, 100, and 144. So they all actually divide evenly into 720. But remember, you always want to pick the largest perfect square that divides evenly into it, or else you'd have to simplify even more. So we're going to use 144. All right, so then we'll go back to our problem, and we'll rewrite this as the square root of 144, and that goes into it 5 times, so times 5 times x squared times y to the 5th. All right, and then we're going to go through and we're going to simplify each one. So first we start with the square root of 144. Well, the square root of 144 is equal to 12, so I can take the square root of 144, so I'll cross out that number. I cannot take the square root of 5, so that is going to remain in our radical. All right, so it's square root of 5. Now, for this x squared, the way that we do this and that we can see how we can simplify this is we take this x to the 4th, the square root of x to the 4th, and we rewrite it. All right, now when we rewrite it, we're going to rewrite it as a rational exponent, meaning we're going to have a fraction. All right, and what goes in your numerator is the power. All right, we'll talk about this more in another video coming up, but your power goes in your numerator and your index goes in your denominator. So since our power here is 4 and our index is 2, this will be rewritten as x to the 4 over 2. All right, then if it divides evenly into it, you simplify, so that becomes x squared. So this tells me that the square root of x to the 4th is x squared. So it means I can take 2 x's out of here. So it's 12x squared. All right, you can also think about it as rewriting x to the 4th as many times as you can as x squared, because if our power matches our index, we can our square root of x squared will just be x. So that means that we would take out 2 x's after this and we'd be left with x squared. It doesn't matter how you do it. Either way is fine. All right. Now we would then take our y to the 5th. So we'd rewrite that as power over index. So this becomes y to the 5 over 2. Now, this one does not divide evenly into it. So what you want to do is rewrite your rational power or rational exponent as a mixed fraction. So this 5 over 2 gets rewritten as 2 and 1/2. All right, now this whole number that we have, the 2, that tells us how many y's we can take out. So I know that 2 y's are going to be coming out of that radical. So I can simplify y to the 5th, the square root of y to the 5th, by taking 2 out. And then what's left in your numerator is what stays in your radical. So this will stay, or this will, a y will be left under the radical. So this will be your final answer. Your simplification is 12x squared y squared times square root of 5y. All right? There's a couple different ways you can go about doing this. You can simplify first. There's different ways you can simplify your exponents or your variables. It doesn't matter. You'll always come to the same answer. So 12x squared y squared times the square root of 5y. All right, that is the final answer, and that is it for this video.